Hello, my dear friends. This is our first episode with Dr. Koenraad Elst, who is visiting USA with 15 city tours, and his interest is in Hinduism, and he has written over 30 books about Hinduism and different topics relevant to India, and that actually brought my interest into hosting him right here in Tampa, and we were having a lot of discussions about what's going on in India, the current situation going on, about the elections, and it is going to be this very soon. We are going, the Indian government, Indian citizens are going to elect their new prime minister. So in all of those contexts, we spoke about 4 or 5 key issues which are determining the future of India, and they are the key issues about Indian politics and Indian elections. One of them, which is very important and dear to my heart, is freedom of expression. I spoke to him in detail about it, and we are going to talk about freedom of expression and how does this particular term, what does it mean as a human being, and how law is defined in Europe, how it is defined in America, and we'll give you a little perspective how it is happening right now in India, whether it is right or wrong. You can make the determination, but I would really like to hear Dr. Koenraad Elst perspective on this. So Dr. Elst, welcome to our studio. And as I was talking to you about the current situation going on in Indian politics, and one of the main reasons there is a lot of conflict between two line of thoughts. One is people like Kanhaiya Kumar, very bright young leader from JNU, they think their voice is being suppressed just because they are raising their voice against the state. Whereas the state or people who are the followers of BJP or the current government, they think that people like Kanhaiya Kumar and similar people like him, their voice is against the nation, not against the state. And that's why they have a right to suppress him. Now, I'm not a journalist, I'm just a citizen, and I have a natural love for my country in India. So it comes to my mind after living here 15, 16 years, because that is not an issue in America when it comes to freedom of expression. But when you see those debates running on Indian TV channels, it's quite imperative, and you can see that people are divided into 2 different categories in India, and that worries me most. I'm not worried about whether his voice is being suppressed or not. I'm more worried about the way that debate is being conducted in India, and that is putting India into a global situation where more than a freedom of expression, it is considered that we are not a tolerant state anymore when it comes to the issues like this. And that makes me worried. That makes me worried that, why India as a growing country after 70 years of, freedom, and it's the youngest country in the world right now. People are, getting wonderful education, becoming global entrepreneurs, and why we are not able to solve such a small issue at a state level or at a government level, and why there are 2 different kind of categories which are being created, and it's creating discrimination at all levels. It's creating a lot of other problems, and that is what worries me.
Yes, okay, I understand you. Now, my opinion about this, the nationalists, the supporters of the BJP government, they typically show indignation whenever leftist intellectuals, the so-called urban naxals, whom they see as allies of the terrorists, speak out in favor of Kashmiri separatism, or speak out in solidarity with the terrorists. And it is indeed true that whenever a terrorist, except Hindu accused of terrorism, but real terrorists of the Islamic or of the communist variety, the actual Naxalites. When any of those is nabbed and prosecuted, then you do get expressions of solidarity from the left intellectuals. Now, from people who love India and want to maintain its unity and integrity, this is somewhat scandalous. And you see, personally, I hold no brief for the opinion of those intellectuals, but nevertheless, I think they have a right to say it. So,
who has a right to
not
say
to
it?
make it difficult, I think every Indian citizen has a right to speak out, for instance, in favor of Kashmiri independence, or for instance, in favor of clemency for the terrorists. You see, I think that should not be implemented. I think the law should have its course against terrorists. I think the unity and integrity of India, including Kashmir, should be maintained and defended. But if anyone thinks differently, well, they have a right to say it.
Right. And that's exactly my point is, everybody has a right to say. But the question is, what do they say? Is it considered a hate speech? Can they criticize another religion? Can they criticize nation? What should be the limit? Because if they can criticize anything under the, on this earth, it is okay to have an opinion, but if they criticize publicly and it goes on media, it becomes a huge story, then it gives a chance to other people, and where people can get influenced, and they commit crimes.
Most law systems, even in countries where they do a very far-reaching freedom of expression, such as the United States with its First Amendment, or such as Belgium, which was the first country to have a really liberal constitution guaranteeing freedom of speech, where people like Karl Marx, like Victor Hugo, like Eduard Douwes Dekker, like the anarchists Proudhon and Bakunin, effectively sought asylum, because there they had freedom of speech. So even those countries have certain curbs on slander, on calls to violence, but nevertheless, when it comes to political opinions, their freedom should be absolute. And that is just the principle of democracy. In a democracy, the people jointly take a decision which presupposes that they jointly have all the information, that they jointly can know all the available opinions in the matter. Therefore, there should be absolute freedom. If there is not, then automatically you do not have a democracy anymore. What you have then is an upper class that gets all the information, all the opinions, that makes a selection, and then decides, oh yeah, these lower class people, they can hear this but not that. And you have a second class of people, the lower class people, who only get a selection of opinions that was made by others for them. So there you have in principle an inequality that should not be there in a democracy. So I am in favor of very far-reaching freedom of expression.
No, that's absolutely fantastic view. What you said is that the first-class citizens gives, which are mainly the upper class who has all the information, and then they selectively pick their topics to talk about, and then they share it with the second class, which is very good. But my question is, when people like Kanhaiya Kumar, or people like who are literate and highly who achieve doctorate and MPhils and PhDs, and when they form certain opinions and they go in public and they make an opinion about certain issue, they fear of their life. What they say is that anybody can take a law and order in their hand and throw stones on us. And which, in my view, like personally, if somebody asks, that no matter whether he's Kanhaiya Kumar or he's a separatist or Madhu Mufti or whoever it is, they are raising the voice against the state or against even the government or making hate speeches,
Yes.
their life, being an Indian citizen, should be protected by law, by constitution, by the state. And if that is not happening, then it is absolutely a matter of, worry, and then there should be some kind of solution.
Right, but that's
the
that's
government
a
should
different
do or
issue.
that, they cannot just live with the fear that if we speak, we would have a risk of our life or a threat
Yeah,
to
but
our
that's
life.
a different issue. You see, one is whether the state should respect.
Well, state is
freedom of
allowing.
speech.
That's why they are not behind the bars.
Right.
Otherwise, they would be put behind the
Yeah,
bars.
of course. And then the
They
other
are free.
issue
They
is
are going on media. They are talking to everybody.
the other issue is one of citizens taking the law
But the
into their
fear
own